FBI and is a counter-terrorism expert, and we have invited him on the program to talk about this question. Why has President Obama made common cause with the Muslim Brotherhood? John, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much. Thank you all for having me.
And you have I believe, looking at some of this material, you have a book that is soon to be released called Raising a Jihadi Generation. Is that true? What is that?
Correct.
What is that book going to be about?
The advanced copies are out, and we're looking over them and getting some people to help us with doing the final edits, and then hopefully within the next few weeks we'll start selling them online and everywhere else.
Well, good. Congratulations on that project. Now, you are a former FBI agent and counterterrorism expert, and you literally wrote the training manual on counterterrorism. Did you not?
Well, I wrote I put together and moderated the very first training program inside the government on the Muslim Brotherhood, the Islamic movement, and Islamic law, and how they operate here in the United States, yes. So there were other counter-terrorism training programs, but none of them that looked at the Islamic movement here like this one did.
All right, so for those who are listening and watching online, they've heard the name Muslim Brotherhood before. It just sounds like a kind of nondescript, maybe a kind of a nice warm and fuzzy, everyone loves the word brotherhood. So inform our folks, what is this group, the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, the Muslim Brotherhood, I'll give you the short overview and then let you guys poke around and ask questions because you know your audience better than I do. But the Muslim Brotherhood is a group a Muslim group, obviously, that was founded in outside of Cairo, Egypt, in the late 1920s, 1928. And it was the result of just prior to that, after World War I, and after a revolution over there, essentially a Turkish revolution, the first nation state of Turkey, the nation state of Turkey, was created, and its president, its new leader, a guy named Kemal Ataturk, was the very first leader. He was a national hero, and what he did was he took all of the central power that was at the time held in what most people remember the Ottoman Empire from junior high school or high school. That was the Islamic Caliphate, or the global Islamic State, and it did cover much of the earth at the time, and that had been in place from the 1200s until the 1920s, nearly 700 years. And what this guy did was he dissolved the caliphate. He did away with Islamic law in Turkey and under the caliphate, obviously. He outlawed the growing of beards, the wearing of hijabs, the call to prayer, and he implemented, did away with Arabic script, replaced it with Latin script. He instituted a secular government, and he built an army, a Turkish army that was secular in nature. And globally in the Muslim world, this did not go over well, as you might imagine. And so some men outside of Cairo, Egypt, formed the Society of Muslim Brothers, the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, for the sole purpose of reestablishing the caliphate and imposing Islamic law on the world. And as I say that, especially if you have folks in your audience that have little or no knowledge of the Brotherhood, and most people didn't until a few years ago when the Muslim Brotherhood's revolution in the Middle East kicked off, 2.5 years ago. Most people hadn't even heard the phrase Muslim Brotherhood. Now people have an idea, but they're getting mixed signals on what they are. But I just want to share a few things with your audience to kick off this discussion, is who they are, who the Muslim Brotherhood, who they say they are. And I just want to read a few things directly from their doctrine. So first of all, this is their creed. Allah is our goal, the messenger is our guide, the Quran is our law, Jihad is our means, and martyrdom in the way of Allah is our inspiration. Their website, their official English website, used to post, and I still have them on my website. We did screen captures because they pulled it off when everyone started going to their website trying to find out who they were. But their own website and their bylaws state that the Muslim Brotherhood is an international Muslim body which seeks to establish Allah's law in the land. That's Sharia, Islamic law. That's who they are. That's why they exist. And their bylaws also say that violence is a part of what they're doing, and the need to establish an Islamic state is what they're doing. And this, let me read this to you. This is right off of their bylaws in English. The Islamic nation must be fully prepared to fight the tyrants and enemies of Allah as a prelude to establishing the Islamic State. And their logo, the MB's logo, is two crossed swords, a Quran, and the phrase "make ready" or "prepare" in Arabic, which they have acknowledged relates directly or references Quran chapter 8, verse 60, which reads, "Against them, make ready your strength to the utmost of your power, including steeds of war, to strike terror in the hearts of your enemies." So I just say that the Muslim Brotherhood was created to dominate, to reestablish the global caliphate, and now they exist around the world today in over 100 countries with a formal structure, and everywhere they exist, they have a political piece. They have a social piece, a lot of charities, and they have a military piece, and those are the guys that blow people up and kill people. And those entities exist here in the United States. And what I'm hoping we can get to a little bit in this discussion is what we know about the Brotherhood here in the United States. In 2004, the FBI raided the home of a known Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood leader in Annandale, Virginia, and we found the archives of the Muslim Brotherhood in North America. And many of those documents were used as evidence in the largest Hamas and terrorism financing trial in U.S. history in Dallas, Texas, in 2008. And this massive amount of financial records, lists of leaders and organizations, documents that absolutely detail their strategy and how they intend to actually overthrow the government here in the United States. What it reveals is a massive network here, which is actually what my book is about and primarily focused on, is that we wonder why all these guys are becoming jihadis in the United States, and we actually have a very large network run by the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States. And finally, before I pause, is that most of the major Islamic organizations in the United States, we know as a matter of fact, legal fact, from evidence, most of the major prominent Islamic organizations in North America are controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood, and so they're necessarily hostile. And so this raises a lot of issues, but I want to put that on the table as we walk into this discussion.
Well, this is today's Issues on American Family Radio. I'm Jim alongside Ed. John, as we continue the discussion, and I have to tell you, there are some things that you've said that are quite troubling, but explain to our listeners what the caliphate is and why they are working so hard to establish that internationally. And also, would you tell us straight up, are these terrorist cells or not?
Okay, yeah, sure. First of all, the first part of the question, the caliphate. The caliphate is simply, from their perspective, the global Muslim community under a governmental system. Islamic law is not equivalent to Christian canon law or Jewish halakha, Jewish law. It's a system of government and governance. and it has specific ways that it has to be implemented. And this is a big misconception, especially among pastors, rabbis, priests in the religious community who see Sharia as nothing different than guidance from God, just like Christians and Jews and others get. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's actually real law. And as you probably notice, it's being implemented around the world. It's the source of law in constitutions in most Islamic countries. Matter of fact, in all Islamic countries that are currently part of the global system known as the Organization of Islamic Conference. So when you ask about the caliphate is a system of governance. And let me just say, I just threw it out there, but the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Conference, is the largest international body in the world, second only to the United Nations. And it is made up of all 57 Islamic states, 57 states. And technically it's 56 Islamic republics plus the Palestinian state. And at the head of state and king level, they operate and they make policy which becomes enforceable in the Islamic community under the OIC. And this is something that surprisingly many people, especially people at the State Department, in my work on Capitol Hill and in the government, are literally unaware of the power of this organization. And the reason I bring it up is because it is acting today as what some have called the pseudo-caliphate. It will be the guide, it's the framework for the new caliphate, because it includes as I mentioned, all the Islamic world at the head of state and king level. And two things before I kind of pull out of this and answer your second part. The OIC passed a resolution or put forth a resolution in 1993, served a document in 1993 to the United Nations formally called, the Cairo Declaration, which says we, the entire Muslim world at the head of state and king level, agree with the Declaration of International Declaration of Human Rights insofar as it does not contradict Sharia. And we only see and understand human rights as it's seen through the lens of Sharia Islamic law, which means in practical purposes, they do not agree with anything in the Declaration of Human Rights, because the International Declaration of Human Rights includes equal rights for women, for homosexuals, and for non-Muslims, and Sharia does not. So this is a big, I'm laying some things on the table for maybe future broader discussions, but it's important for your listeners, I think, when you understand that this is a real force in the world today that few are paying attention to, although we have been able to get some members of Congress to speak out and to take action on. The second piece is, are these terrorists, was your question.
Right.
Well, they're jihadis. The Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States, they're jihadis. Again, I am very specific in the language I use, because I think a part of our problem today is we use language that means different things to them. And everything they say and do is in accordance with Islamic law, and especially their language. So words like peace and justice and terrorism and suicide are understood only as Islamic law would have them be understood. So a terrorist is somebody who kills a Muslim without right, whereas a jihadi is a Muslim who is acting in accordance with Islamic law and spreading Islam via the sword. And that is absolute, it's obligatory under Islamic law.
We're talking to John Guandolo, who is a former federal agent with the FBI. He's a counter-terrorism expert. He's author of the soon-to-be-released book, Raising a Jihadi Generation, handbook for law enforcement, military, and intelligence professionals. He is also the founder of UnderstandingTheThreat.com, a website we encourage you to take a look at. John, let me ask you this. Let's get to the subject of the Muslim Brotherhood. in the United States, and the apparent inability, and not just the Obama administration. I saw this under the Bush administration. It seems to be an inability